This lesson is a short write-up about various working mechanisms of typical non-governmental organizations. Having a good and effective NGO board provides a basis for successful management of its organization, familiarizes its target constituents of the NGO, helps in better understanding of the organizational structure of the NGO, and also assists in distributing responsibilities among the team members within the organization. A board may be called by different names, that is, board of directors, steering committee, advisory group, etc. The term board is used collectively and interchangeably to mean all these names. This lesson is intended to study the management of voluntary organization. Objectives. On completion of this lesson, you should be able to understand the meaning of governing body and know about the function, roles and responsibilities of governing body. Governing body. The term governing body, which is the most commonly used word for the management of a society, has not been defined anywhere in the Societies Registration Act 1860. The governing body is defined under Section 16 of the Societies Registration Act 1860 as governing body of a society to consist of the governors, council, committee, trustees or some other body by whatever name called to whom or to which by the rules and regulations of the society, the management of its affairs is entrusted. Therefore, we can easily say that the governing body of the society is the brain of the society without which it cannot operate. The governing body of the institution shall be the council, director, committee or other body to whom by act of parliament, charter or the rules and regulations of the institution the management of the affairs is entrusted, and if no such body shall have been constituted on the establishment of the institution, it shall be competent for the members thereof upon due notice to create for itself a governing body to act for the institution henceforth. For the regular activities of the society, the management, execution and supervision is done by the governing body. The governing body has to work within the framework of the objects of the society as well as carry out the statutory duties laid down in the Act. The governing body of the society is a fluctuating body. However, the constitution of the governing body is not affected by the change of the members. The governing body will always exist to manage the affairs of the society whether or not it has been properly constituted in terms of the rules and regulations. The entrustment of the management should be complete to the governing body. The criterion in all cases is who is managing the affairs of the society. Similarly, the property of the society vests in the governing body and not in the members of the society. Members and meetings. Usually, the governing body comprises of members chosen from among the members of the society, or in some cases, if the government feels necessary, a nominee can be appointed by the government in the governing body for public interest. The annual general meeting of the society is held according to the rules and regulations of the society, generally once in a year. Importance of governing board. There is a growing need for non-profit and non-governmental organizations, that is NGOs, throughout the world to be more effective and productive. One of the many ways they are achieving this is by broadening and strengthening the constitution of their boards. An increase in the effectiveness of the NGO board itself has been achieved by bringing together organizations and leaders with a shared interest in the work of boards, building capacity by training, and developing management and governance, that is board affairs. A board may be an advisory board or a governing board, and it is important to clarify the differences. Advisory boards are incorporated under a host organization which defines their limits of authority and responsibility. The advisory board has no legal status apart from its parent body. The primary function of an advisory board is to provide advice and recommendations to the agency's staff or the governing board, which may or may not take the advice it is given. The advisory board is only responsible for the mandate it receives from its parent body. Governing boards are independently incorporated and are the legal entity and authority for the non-profit organization. In legal terms, the governing board is the organization. It has the authority to govern itself and to create its own rules. The governing board is ultimately accountable for the proper conduct of the organization's business. The Province of Manitoba, Department of Family Services and Housing, funds social service agencies which are incorporated as non-profit organizations and are managed by governing boards. The board is ultimately responsible for all aspects of the agency's programs, staffs, and funds. This includes accountability to the funding sources of the agency. Board members play a critical role in the development and success of non-profit organizations. Sometimes referred to as a board of trustees, these volunteers act as guardians for your organization who protect and maintain the core values and purposes of the organization in the following areas, such as financial management, planning, program, resource development, human resource management, information management, marketing and public relations, governance, that is board affairs. Functions of a board. It first of all sets policies and strategies for the NGO in line with the agreed purposes, principles and scope of the NGO. It also sets operational guidelines, work plans and budgets for the NGO and policy and program support. Many times it is also called on to make funding decisions. It assesses the internal workings of the NGO by setting criteria for membership of appointing review panels and support groups. It may also establish a framework for monitoring and periodic independent evaluation of performance and financial accountability of activities supported by the NGO. One of its main roles is representation of the NGO in the larger community. It represents views of the NGO in various constituencies or within the NGO community in relation to outside organizations. It is frequently asked to coordinate with outside agencies as well as advocate for the NGO and mobilize resources. Often, the board is the first contact that an NGO's target audience have, and in some cases, it is the first contact where people's concerns are actually heard due to the high standing of board members in the community. The board's presence in the field sometimes forces decision makers to listen to affected people's concerns and can help to open up alternative solutions. Within the board setup itself, An NGO board selects and appoints chairpersons for the board and also participates on committees and working groups of the NGO. As a collective body, the trustees hold the authority and responsibility to ensure the fulfillment of an organization's mission. They are ultimately responsible for the fiscal health of the institution. The Board of Trustees' governing role is typically limited to selection of the president and policy approval, with the daily operations and management of the institution operated by staff and volunteers. Finding the right composition of your Board of Trustees could be one of the most important projects that you ever take on. A well-established and committed board with the right skills can provide a solid platform that will enable your NGO to blossom in the years to come. Board members with essential skills can reduce the burden on your organization's paid staff and volunteers that will liberate them and enable them to achieve more. They can also reduce costs to outside contractors and agencies by allowing you to conduct certain operations such as accounting, fundraising, and legal matters in-house. Organizations that benefit from active, well-informed, and responsible trustees are often the best placed to fulfill their missions. Typically, the President of the Board of Trustees is responsible for establishing the agenda for the board that would span across all areas of the organization's function. Other roles that feature on many boards are secretary and treasurer, whilst it is also common to have a number of subcommittees that are responsible for specific areas of the organization's work. The board's main responsibilities include establishing and supporting the institution's vision and mission, acting as the legal owners of the organization, ensuring the organization is sustainable, evaluating performance, supporting staff, and reviewing and creating policies. Often, boards operate subcommittees to support different areas of the organization, meaning they may be involved in fundraising, strategic planning, human resources, and communications. Trustees are typically expected to act as ambassadors for the institution in the community. Board is responsible for directing and auditing the NGO. This general responsibility context can be elaborated as follows. 1. Managing the NGO within the framework of constitutional goals and operations determined in its bylaws, and to make and implement all sorts of decisions within the limits of its authority in this context. 2. Representing the NGO or authorizing one or more people for this duty. 3. Making the transactions related to income and expense accounts of the NGO, selecting the person or persons to collect incomes and give authorization and withdraw authorization for them. 4. Preparing regulations for all activities in order for the members, NGO bodies, and employees to implement, provided that they are not against its bylaws. 5. Preparing the forthcoming period's budget, determining entry fee, annual fee, and membership participation fee in line with the revenue. 6. To follow the procedures about the members who do not pay yearly contributions or their participation shares. 7. Selecting delegates who will represent the organization in federations in which the NGO is actively involved. 8. Implementing General Assembly decisions and regulations, supervising the implementation of the budget. 9. Conducting the association's business, account table or balance sheet, and income table and the report, explaining the works of the board of directors at the end of each activity year and submit it to the General Assembly. 10. Executing other matters assigned by the NGO's bylaws and legislation. 11. Determining the mid and long-term goals of the NGO, revising strategies in line with these goals, taking reformatory precautions if necessary. 12. Hiring the General Secretary who will carry the NGO to projected goals, determining his or her authority and scope of duty, evaluating his or her performance, determining his or her auxiliary rights and price policies. 13. Ensuring harmonious and constructive operation of Board of Directors, commissions, working groups and professional workers on the way to effectively and productively reaching institutional goals of the NGO, establishing necessary organizational structure. 14. Creating and coordinating the communication policy with the stakeholders. 15. Generating and implementing ethic codes for the NGO, publicized through website, determining institutional values and standards. 15. Auditing the NGO's activities to ensure their compliance with the legislation and their accord with best practice standards. 16. Orienting content development works with value creation content to stakeholders, auditing correspondence of the publications. 17. Conducting and executing basic principles to develop cooperation. 18. Managing income creating activities by a department or person developing projects, implementing income generating projects that will create value for the stakeholder. Minimum members of a governing body. There shall be at least 2 members of any governing body. However, if the society is registered in the state of Tamil Nadu, there should be at least 3 members of the governing body. The members of the governing body are either elected or nominated as per the rules and regulations of the society. Term of office. Generally, the term of office of the members of the governing body is given in the rules of the society. However, if the society is registered in the state of Tamil Nadu, the Tamil Nadu State Act gives the term of office of a member of the governing body for a period which cannot exceed more than 3 years. The rules of society should also generally provide the procedure for retirement and expulsion of the members. Property of the society. Trustee of a society is a person in whom the confidence has been reposed under a trust. A trustee is a person who is owner of the property and deals with it as principal owner and master subject only to an equitable obligation to account to some person to whom he or she stands in relation of trustee. A trust is an obligation annexed to the ownership of a property and arising out of a confidence reposed in and accepted by the owner or declared or accepted by him for the benefit of another and the owner thereof. The members of the governing body are the trustees of the property of the society. The property, whether movable or immovable, vests with the society's trustees. In case there are no trustees for the property of the society, it is deemed to be vested in the governing body of the society. An office bearer of a society may also be the trustee of the property. In case of any civil or criminal proceedings, the property of society is also described as the property of the governing body of such society. However, the personal property of the person or the officer who has been named on behalf of the society is not in any case liable for any judgment which has been given against the property of the society. Section 8 of the Act states that if a judgment shall be recovered against the person or officer named on behalf of the society, such judgment shall not be put in force against the property, movable or immovable, or against the body of such person or officer, but against the property of the society. Signing authority. In general, all the documents of the society to be filed with the society registrar should be signed by the president or the chairman or the secretary of the society or by any other person specifically authorized in this behalf. Filing of documents of the society. The various documents or the various intimations to the registrar of the society which are to be filed should be signed either by the chairman or the president, secretary, or by any person specifically authorized in this behalf by the rules and regulations or as authorized by a resolution of the governing body. Statutory duties of the governing body. Since governing body manages the affairs of the society, the members of the governing body have to comply with the provisions laid down in the statute regarding filing of the documents with the registrar, maintenance of accounts, managing and applying the funds of the society for carrying out the objects of the society, etc. The provisions of the Principal Act lays down the way the society is required to act, and for all purposes it is the governing body which has to fulfill these duties on behalf of the society. The statutory duties which the governing body is required to carry out are filing of list of the names, addresses, occupations of the governors, council, directors, committee or other governing body at that time entrusted with the management of the affairs of the society once in a year within 14 days of the annual general meeting of the society in the month of January if rules do not provide for AGM. Holding of annual general meeting at the time prescribed in the rules and regulations of the society. Holding of extraordinary general special meeting in case some special business has to be transacted which cannot wait till holding of the AGM. Changes in the managing body and the rules of the society have to be filed with the registrar of societies as per the provisions of various State Act insertions under section 4A, 4B and 4C. Notice of the situation of the registered office and any change thereof has to be filed with the registrar within 1 month from the date of registration of society or the date of the change as the case may be. Any amendments in the memorandum or bylaws has to be registered with the registrar signed by one of the members of the governing body to be accompanied with a copy of the special resolution relating to the amendment with a fee of ₹2. Ensuring that the notice for the AGM and extraordinary meeting is duly sent to all the members. The registered office should supply to its members on application copy of bylaws, receipts and payment account, balance sheet at a prescribed fee. Responsibility for investment and application of the funds and properties of the society. Maintenance of register of members as per the rules and regulations of the society. Display of the name of the society at its place of business and its registered office. When required by the government or the registrar, the governing body of any society should submit periodical account of income and expenditure and assets and liabilities of the society. A copy of the special resolution passed for any purpose duly signed by an officer of the society authorized by the rules of the society should be filed with the registrar within 20 days from the passing of the resolution. The governing body should ensure the recording of the minutes of the proceedings of the governing body or the general body. The society should retain the important documents of the society permanently. Summary. Many responsibilities of the governing board have been discussed in this section. It is important for the board to review each of these areas regularly to ensure that the organization is moving in the direction intended. It should be noted once again that members of governing boards are collectively and individually responsible for the activities of the organization. Any board that operates by rubber stamping the executive director's recommendations must be aware that they are responsible for that decision. If losses or problems occur, it is a board that will be held accountable. Therefore, members should exercise the same degree of care in the management of the agency that they would on behalf of their own affairs.